Nothing. No, no. Well,
Oh, we are
I'm
live.
a UVA guy, so this is,
Well, you're lucky to be playing Duke and not the University of Miami in the ACC
Oh, I
final. Okay.
agree.
All
I
right.
agree.
If those of you that have tuned in without us doing an introduction, yes, we are talking. We are deep into the CFP ESPN
CFP.
Invitational rankings, but we are here
Why do
live.
they hate our teams, Chuck?
Yeah, they always hate our teams. Everybody hates our teams, right? And just like you guys watching now, you assume all press hates your people, your party, your this. Well, tonight we have another election result night. My partners here, Chris Cillizza, Jeffrey Skelling from Decision Desk HQ. We are going to be powered by the vote count from Decision Desk HQ. Polls in Tennessee's 7th special congressional election. They close in 9 minutes. We will be here for as long as it takes to call this election. And let's be honest, this shouldn't be a very competitive election. But
we shouldn't be hosting a live stream tonight.
But we decided to because it looks like Republicans hit the panic button about 2 weeks ago. They realized that what happened on election night 2025 was not a one-off. There is a larger problem here for the Republican Party as a whole. They've tried to turn this race into a referendum on the Democratic candidate, trying to paint Afton Bain as sort of out of the mainstream. In many ways, Matt Van Epps is a very conventional conservative Republican, should be a layup, but it is not, Chris Cillizza.
The fact that we are talking about this, the fact that we have a live stream tonight, the fact that national media has talked about this is, I think, already a win effectively for Democrats. Look, I'm going to let Jeffrey did an amazing post on this. So I'm going to let him do some of the details on why we shouldn't be talking about this in terms of numbers. But what I will say is, look, if a district like this is even marginally in play, I don't think Afton Bain is going to win the Democrat. I think she probably loses by 5 to 10 points. But the fact that she loses by 5 to 10 and the Republican Party apparatus writ large, the MAGA Inc. Super PAC Club for Growth are in for multi-millions of dollars in a seat Donald Trump won 60-38 not in 2020, not in 2016, in 2024. I think that speaks to the way the wind is blowing. Now, we're mindful. It's one election. I get it. It's a special election, but I want Jeffrey talk about, because Jeffrey's breakdown on Decision Desk HQ Substack, I sampled from it extensively in mine.
And
it was
Jeffrey,
great.
Any chance you could share your screen with that chart on it? Because it's fantastic.
Yes. Yeah. The one with like Travis Childers and Connor Lamb and stuff. That was great.
Here.
And by the way, while you're doing that, I got a great question here. Somebody just popped into the chat. If the first batch shows a massive lead, meaning early vote coming in, how should we be watching the vote come in, Jeffrey? Are we going to see the early vote first, then election day, and the usual pattern here that we see in other states?
My understanding is that will be mostly the pattern. I can't guarantee that every single county will do it quite like that. But we know that about 84,000 votes were cast early or via absentee as of at least, I think, November 26th, which was when like the early voting period ended, was last week. And so that's a sizable amount. It's worth noting that every county in this district, at least 60% of its total vote in 2024 in the presidential election was cast early. So there's a decent chance that the 80,000, so that means a fair number of Republicans were voting early too, in person early, or via absentee.
Which, by the way, just for people who aren't as familiar, just quickly on that, Jeffrey, correct me if I'm wrong. Typically, we always assume, early vote is going to be much more Democratic. They are much more likely to vote. But you're saying history would suggest that's not the case here.
And by the way, Tennessee, one of the first states to adopt early voting. This is a habitual thing for Tennessee.
Yeah, they've done it.
We know that nationally, it was obviously very strong in 2020, but there's still in 2024 was a bit of a partisan split between how people preferred to vote. So Democrats and people who lean Democratic were more likely to vote by mail or in person early or early in some manner, while Republican voters were somewhat more likely to vote on election day. But the split was not as large as it was in 2020. And we saw Republicans make a big effort actually to push for people to to vote, get your vote in before
Yep.
election day. And so it's interesting because in this race with such a low turnout, well, I shouldn't say that. A special election should have lower turnout. You know, it
Right.
seems
No,
like
that in itself, a high turnout in a special election
that would
is
be
also significant.
huge news.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting though, because Tennessee had really low turnout in the 2022 midterms, which is kind of our last relevant comparison point for turnout. You're never going to get presidential turnout in a special
Well,
election.
wasn't that because the governor was running for re-election, if I'm not mistaken?
And Bill,
right?
Bill Lee was
Yeah,
winning.
it wasn't competitive
a
at the top of the
massive
ticket.
amount. There
Yeah.
wasn't a Senate race.
Mm-mm. Yeah,
So
open
right.
one,
Nothing
this-
to drive people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, there was nothing competitive on the ballot. And so that in turn led to a bunch of people not showing up. And so there were about 181,000 votes cast in the 7th district congressional race in 2022 in that midterm. And the estimates, our current expected vote from Decision Desk is around 150,000, which would be, not that far away, but still not more like the 200 you might expect in a more competitive environment, or even above 200,000 in a regular November election.
Right.
So I interrupted you asking about the difference in the early and the unvote. If you can share your screen with that little
because I think people want to
Oh,
understand
you want to do the early?
Do this one. I like
do
this
this
one.
one
Okay.
This is great about how big an upset it actually would be. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Here,
this
I
is
will
fascinating
zoom
to
in
me.
so people can see it more easily. Essentially, okay, look, this is a district that Donald Trump won by a little over 22 percentage points. He led in the national popular vote by about 1.5 points. So the district leaned about 21 points to the right of the country. So if you're thinking about the math in that way, it makes it a little easier to compare over time. In that sense, if Democrats were to actually pull the upset in this election, which again we've already maybe put it out there, is not a high chance of that, but it is in the realm of possibility, which is why we're even here right now. But if it were to flip, it would be basically the fourth biggest flip in the last 20 years by either party when you sort of look at district lean by the last presidential election, and it would be joining a very select group. Two high-profile Democratic flips people may remember from Trump's first term. Connor Lamb winning Pennsylvania's 18th congressional district, very much in the same boat. And then in 2008, a little farther back, Travis Childers won a red seat in Mississippi that was sort of the end of George W. Bush's presidency. And then there was a weird one in 2010 in Hawaii, which
I remember that one. Charles
time,
Dujoux.
but that was sort of an accident because
it was
of the
a setup where every
Yes.
party could have multiple candidates. Like there wasn't a nomination process, and so Charles Dujoux ended up winning with about 40% of the vote. The two top Democratic candidates finished second and third, but they had about 59%. So if there had been one major Democrat, he probably loses. But hey, they couldn't coordinate. So
Look, I could look at your list, and I'm always hesitant that you don't have enough instances to say there's a trend, but it is not lost on me that the Childers special in Mississippi sort of did sort of foreshadow what was going to be a huge sort of shift away from the GOP towards Democrats, really across the board, both in 06 and in 08. And then also the Connor Lamb special.
Yes.
But there's a big difference between Afton Bain and Connor Lamb, right? And
she is a uniquely bad fit for this district.
Not
she's
a good
running
fit
as
for this
pretty much
district.
an out-and-out progressive, like there's no
Right.
she would be if she were to win, where you had the Childers example in 2008 or Lamb in 2018. I mean, they were running as very, very center of the party, moderate, trying to appeal to a district that was clearly, right leaning. And Bain is not doing that so much.
Well, I think
this
at
is
least
all
in
a
part,
turnout play.
Yes.
And this is what
Totally.
makes it, to me, because she's not a good fit for this district ideologically, it's to me that much more of a potential catastrophe for the Republicans if they lose this.
If they elect her in that district?
Because it means it wasn't about her. It was about Trump and the Republicans.
That's right. They wanted to send a message.
A referendum. And what is interesting to me, a narrow win by the Republicans also tells me that the good news for them is if they spend enough money defining the opponent and can paint her out of the mainstream, they can do this. But can you do this in 30 districts and in 10 Senate races, right? You could cherry pick a race at a time and pull this off. It's tough once there are a lot of other mouths to feed on the campaign battlefield.
And hey, you know what we should do? First of all, I just see it's 8 Eastern, so polls
we
are
are.
closed. But we should run. Can we, just for what they're saying about each other, can we run the Afton Bain ad and the Matt Van Epps ad back to back, just so people can see like what the messaging is?
Yeah, it will help a lot for it. They're terrific.
Yeah.
They're good sort of landscape setters. So let's take a look at them.
In Afghanistan, the radical shot at us. So these radical attacks now, piece of cake.
I'm a very radical person.
On December 2nd, you can stop this radical disaster. The Democrats' radical agenda, opposing tax cuts, pushing higher taxes and higher prices, and new taxes that would crush working families. Tennessee can't afford their radical agenda.
I'm Matt Van Epps, and I approve this message because I'll fight for America. Always have, always will.
I'm Afton Bain. We all know the system is rigged in Washington. Here's how it works. Politicians make it easy for their rich donors, tax cuts for billionaires, and burying the Epstein files, while hardworking Tennesseans get a rough ride by cutting health care for Tennessee families, doubling health insurance premiums, and tariffs that hurt our economy. I'm Afton Bain, and I approve this message. Vote early to shake up Washington.
Look, I think
I don't like that Bain ad.
No, I thought her ads. It's interesting how the two did their. One is sort of more about the Van Epps had very traditional ad in the Trump era, right?
Point of
Yeah,
I'm a patriot. The
almost
helicopter, because he was a helicopter
borderline
pilot.
formulaic. Okay,
Yeah.
and I say that not disrespectfully. Formulaic ads work for a lot of people, so I'm not gonna. And she's trying really hard to say, "Hey, look, I'm one of you," right? Or my only question about that, Jeffrey, is it an ad like hers with the the metaphors are cute and all that stuff? Will it come across as trying too hard?
Yeah, it could. I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I'm sure that ad. I mean, I don't have an accounting of this because that would be hard.
It's a more
to do,
watchable
but
ad. That's for
I'm
sure.
sure that it's gotten more free coverage because people were like, "Oh, look at this fun ad," and this,
Right.
and even local coverage probably of like Afton Bain with this interesting ad. All of that. Maybe it gets a little bit more of that free coverage that is really great for a campaign when they kind of strike gold with the right kind of ad. But I do think that the Van Epps ad is interesting for a couple reasons. One is how it opens, the radical shooting at us. Not, in my opinion, it's subtle, but I think it's not hard to look at the recent events. The assassination of Charlie Kirk and a lot of the rhetoric, obviously, on the Republican side of the aisle in the aftermath of that regarding political violence, and that leftists are attacking us, and you're running against somebody who is viewed as on the left, toward the left of her party. And so trying to tie those things together is I think an understandable approach, especially in a red district where you're trying to just gin up even base level Republican turnout, because if you do, you'll win.
First results starting to trickle in. If we want to share, we might as well share the screen that has the results coming in if we can.
I can do that, or Chris, you can do that.
Yeah, I can do it. No, I got it. Give me one sec.
However you want to do it.
It's one of the more. It's one of the counties furthest. We've got a couple counties in both Van Epps counties.
Hold on, I'm doing it. Lauren, I'm doing it this second. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay, Lauren, we should be good. We should have it there. Yeah. So I mean, very little, but
if you want to scroll down actually a little bit.
Yeah, dude.
Chris, you scroll down a little bit, you see the map. You can see the map.
Yeah. Where it is? Can you guys see that now?
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, like classic, I was literally just doing a thing. For people who don't know, I'm at the University of Illinois. Chuck and I's mutual friend, Colleen King, is a professor here, runs a great program. I don't know if you can see over my right shoulder. That's Chuck Todd right there. And I was just who has been here. And I was just doing a talk and somebody asked about redistricting and gerrymandering. And I was like, man, like, look at this district. Like it's the entire north-south of the state. Like, right. And this isn't even a terribly drawn district, but just remarkable.
Hey, did you guys catch what Tim Burchett, who's a Tennessee Republican, said about this race and about redistricting in general? Because what's interesting about the Tennessee map, Jeffrey, and confirm this, but is what they did to Nashville is what, for instance, Republicans in Indiana want to do to Indianapolis, or what we've
Yep.
seen in the past, what Utah tried to do to Salt Lake, which is you take the bluest part of your state and you make it a spoke, right? And you try to just slice it. So they distributed Nashville essentially to 3 different congressional districts in order to get rid of a Democratic district that was in Nashville. It worked, except every district is in this 57 to 62% Republican area, which means in a special like this, a little movement all in one direction suddenly makes the seat competitive. And what I think what Congressman Burchett was trying to get at is that, hey, you know, what the Republicans could end up inadvertently doing is allowing a wave to develop and put more seats on the table with this redistricting. Is Burchett right about this, Jeffrey?
I mean, I think it is a genuine concern. If you actually want to, Lauren, not to keep flipping between screens here, but we still don't have that many votes. But if you wanted to flip over to mine, I actually have a map up of Nashville, or the Tennessee congressional map. Yep. And you can see Nashville is cracked, as they say in redistricting gerrymandering terms, is cracked across 3 districts. So Nashville, before the 2022 election, before the 2020 census redistricting process, was all in the 5th district. It was basically almost entirely Davidson County, which is
very Democratic district, always elected a Democrat.
Blue dot. It is a blue dot, and now increasingly red Tennessee. Tennessee has moved to the right more than almost any state in the country, actually, sort of in the last 20, 25 years. And so Republicans, understandably, looked at that and said, well, we have pretty safe margins around this in the neighboring districts. So why don't we turn the 5th district into a clearly red leaning seat and pick that up? And so they did that by putting part of the 7th district, which is the orange one here, and part of the 6th district, snaking them, not even snaking. I mean, snaking would be thinner, in parts of it, right? So in the end, you get these 3 districts. And so the 7th, the thing with the 7th is that it's a 60-38 Trump district. And so that shouldn't be in danger. Again, we've said that already. However, if you have a special election with lower turnout and you get, this will be kind of fun. You get all these blue voters right over here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Up at a disproportionately high level when Republican turnout is comparatively lower in the rest of this sea of red out here. And maybe even get some more Democrats from the Clarksville area, which is basically the only other notable source of Democratic votes in this district. That's in Montgomery County, which is the other big vote source in the part of Davidson County that is in the 7th. That could create, a close race. So I'm definitely interested to see what percentage of the vote we get out of those 2 places, because at least in the early vote, and I will switch over to this now, at least in the early vote, the Nashville was decent. So this is a comparison of early vote in the 2024 election and early vote in this election. So you're comparing apples as a percentage of the early votes cast. You have these 2 lighter red. There's Montgomery with Clarksville, and Williamson, which is a suburban county just south. It was also split in half. With Franklin is just the main city there. These are sort of the 3 largest vote sources. And these 2, plus this very red county, Cheatham, have had higher turnout, or at least as a percentage, again, 35 to 40% of the early vote in 2024.
Higher as apples to apples, right?
Yes, higher as a percentage of the 2024 early vote, which means, again, not a high turnout situation if you're getting 35 to 40% of the early vote. Yeah. And Davidson here, the Nashville portion, is on the higher side. And then you have a bunch of these smaller red, very dark red counties, some of those early ones we're seeing votes from, much lower. And I do think that is a concern for Republicans and could speak to how this could end up being close, because then they have to have more election day turnout to make up for this. Now, Republicans are more likely to show up on election day, but if you're talking about at least 60% of the vote in every one of the counties in this district was cast early, it's not clear to me that election day turnout will make up for that.
I was just looking too.
By the way, just to keep in mind, in 2024, I was just looking at this. Just in Nashville and Davidson County, the Democrat beat Mark Green, who's the Republican who resigned to start some business. He hasn't really shared.
So weird.
Yeah, weirdly
it's
shady.
So shady the way
There's
that
an
he
entire,
announced it. I'm not saying it is shady, but
we have
the
no
way
idea.
It couldn't be shadier.
It was the whole thing was weird, and it seems like he waited to resign until he had signed some deals. I mean, it's one of those where if we were living in another era, this would be a scandal. In the Trump era, it's a blip, right?
By the way, Tennessee congressional delegation may be the worst congressional delegation, just in terms of like people and scandal.
You
unrelated.
did a whole ranking of that, didn't you?
Yes.
You
I mean, it's really bad, but we don't have to go through it. Keep going.
Yeah. But by more than 2-1 did the Democrat, I'm very curious to see. The Democrat got 48,000 total vote, right? Just out of Nashville. Now, I don't think we're going to get that kind of presidential level turnout, where Mark Green only got 21,000. So, obviously that's more than a 2-1 victory there in that one. I just don't know if there's going to be that enough. Like where else does she have to do well, Jeffrey, besides winning in Davidson County by a landslide in order to pull this off?
Right. So sort of looking back, we got a few more votes here. Van Epps is up 54-44, basically. This is early vote. There were about 19,000 some odd early and absentee votes in Montgomery County. This is where Clarksville is. And I said it's the only other spot where a Democrat could conceivably carry the county, basically. And if Bain is having a good night, she would. So this number looks good for her on its face. However, she's only up by about 3 points, and that's most of the early vote. So if the election day vote is more Republican leaning, I think knowing what we know about the district coming into this, we sort of expected Bain to need to probably win this county by a point or two to have a shot.
Yeah.
So the big question is how blue or how red is the election day vote? If the election day vote is as red as we sometimes see it, that is good news for Van Epps. If it is a little less so, or even bluer than you'd expect because of just this being a weird election, maybe Bain has a shot. So it's that, I think it's getting that, and just obviously keeping these places not as red. It's all about margins. And so, in a place that Harris lost 75-25, can you lose 65-35?
And by the way, just to add one other piece to it, given what Jeffrey just said about same day voting and Republicans needing people to turn out same day, weirdly bad weather in like in Nashville, at least I just looked it up. It is 30 degrees and all day was a snow, sleet, rain, cold mix. So, like it's a special election. It's a Tuesday.
You gotta really care,
you gotta really want to get out there and vote. And I would say, look, one thing that we learned when we did this, I mean, the last time the three of us were together on this 2025 election, right? Democratic base voters are very fired up. Republican base voters are not. And that, I don't know that plays out. This may wind up not being the case, but like weather matters. If you're, if you're like, I don't know if I should vote. I don't know if it's December 2nd. If you even remember it's an election, you're not too focused on Christmas and it's cold and miserable and you're an older voter, get in the car and drive. My mom does not drive in bad weather. Right. I mean, so it's like, and her definition of bad is it's raining, you know what I mean? So like, I just throw that in there. Cause you're right though, Jeffrey, they do need, they need same day voters to get out there today and vote.
Yeah, another county just looks like it reported a little bit. There will be more early vote from this county, Humphreys. So I don't expect that to stay blue very long. Just in case people were watching and being like, "Oh, look, a blue county," because knowing that Davidson's over here and that's the big drop that we're all very interested in. But thinking about this district on the whole, what I wanted to cut to was thinking about this Emerson College poll, which was the only nonpartisan public poll we had in this race. And, one survey, don't take it to the bank.
You're right. You go to war with the army you have, not the pollsters that you want. And I've got my issues with Emerson.
And Emerson's fine, but this is not
By the way,
on Emerson.
You put two N's in fine there. You're like, it's fine.
No. I'm very happy Emerson pulled it because otherwise we wouldn't have.
We'd be totally blind.
Right. We'd have nothing.
Yeah, we'd have nothing. So it was great that they pulled it. So along with the Hill, they pulled the district and they found Van Epps, the Republican, up 48-46. So that's tight. And if it actually is like 2-point margin, this is going to be an interesting night. But I think what's telling, and this, regardless of how close or off the poll is there's some numbers within that I think told a story, which one was Democrats were amped up and more motivated to vote because the recalled vote of voters in that poll was 54-41 in favor of Trump. But this is a district he carried 60-38, which means likely voters were a more Democratic leaning group. And so part of that is more Democrats are animated and are making up a larger share of the electorate. And there's also some degree of maybe a little bit of Republican deterioration. And that's because Donald Trump, among likely voters, his approval rating was basically split in the poll. It was 47% approve, 49% disapprove, again, in a district that he carried 60-38. And so this is like, if you're looking for the conditions where you could have an upset in a district like this, that's the kind of thing you're looking for. Lower presidential approval, including in a place where, sure, he's in the low 40s nationally, but he's like, just hovering around 50% in a district he won 60% in. That's meaningful. And then you have, lower turnout election, maybe animated, energized Democratic voters make up a somewhat larger share than we would expect in a higher turnout election.
Yep. Hey, I believe our guy Jaron from Kalshi is on the line. If we can, bring him in. There he is. Jaron. Hey, my friend.
We saw that the numbers already went from 91% to 92%. So prediction market's improving for Republicans.
And hey, Lauren, Jaron, before you start, Lauren, share my screen because I've got the Kalshi market up on it right now. Let me make it a little bigger. Go ahead, Jaron. Go ahead.
Oh, yes. No, I was saying, again, thank you for having me. Glad to be back. So the markets have been, moving actually quite dramatically in favor of Afton Bain.
Look at that, Chuck. Look at that drop.
Holy cow. Wow.
Yeah, you see it?
Nothing like a few early drops to convince people to go the other way.
They're shorting Matt Van Epps.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and looking from the early vote, she is doing in a lot of places, around 20 to 25 points better in terms of like the margin. And I do think this is the early vote that has come in. And I think, if this was the sort of final percentage in a lot of these places, she would be probably in a very good spot. This would be probably a very close election, but she had a very good shot. The bigger question, is sort of what was election day turnout like? There was not a ton of data. There was some anecdotal reports that it was quite high in certain parts of the district. And also how much more Republican are those voters? We expect them to be, more, or at least less Democratic than the early vote, but we have no idea how large that shift will happen. So I think once, one of these counties goes from, 50% to 100%, then the markets will really start to consolidate around both the winner as well as what margin.
Just very quickly, what's fascinating to me, Jaron, is basically the market doesn't move at all. I did 1 week and 1 month. That's 1 week that you're looking at. Yeah. This is 1 month. It's basically, I think that's a function of the fact that people have no clue. They don't know what the hell is going. They're not dialed into it. Whereas right now you're seeing all this activity, but it basically stayed 90-10 for a month. And now there's some noise.
Yes. And to be fair, it did briefly go to 80, 317 or something like that. When that Emerson poll came out. But I think there's just been not a lot of public information that's come out about this race. I think towards the end, people are it got more nationalized. They see the spending numbers and they would assume, she really has to outrun the Democratic average over performance. And they're not sure that can happen in a high turnout sort of special election.
Jaron, are you getting, what's the trading volume? What's the market?
Yeah, well, you can see the volume. It's currently at 1.3 million in terms of which party will win. Which is quite good for, a congressional special election. Yeah. And then the margin of victory market is doing around, 700,000. And there's a turnout market. It's probably less than that. Mm-hmm. But in total, you're looking at, probably we're looking at least 2 to 2.5 million in volume traded on a single congressional special election. And, obviously next year in the midterms, not all the districts will be competitive, but there will probably be, a couple dozen competitive districts that could see similar or higher levels of volume, at least hopefully.
Hey, Jaron, what's been the movement? Oh, sorry, Chris.
No, not at all. I was just going to say, you know, like political betting in this country is still in its infancy. The fact that, like, I know it's a high profile election and people are inveterate gamblers, so that any action you get into it. But
man,
it
is
is
a lot
remarkable.
of great college basketball tonight. I'll be honest.
I was going to say,
surprised
it's like Chuck Todd betting on Maction games, Tuesday night college football games.
No,
Yeah, go ahead,
college basketball. Are you aware of the lineup tonight?
Season.
We got ACC, SEC. I think it's Duke, Florida tonight. And some interesting.
Well, are you following play? Georgetown UMBC tomorrow night? Because that's the one
that's typical Georgetown.
On.
Yeah, well done, Jaron. I'm curious. What are you seeing simultaneous movement? You know, the market I'm most curious about to see impacted by tonight's results is the Democratic Party's chances to carry the Senate. Because to me, that's where you would see potential. Like, if we're going to see a blue wave, then suddenly to me, it's the market that they win both the House and the Senate that might show some movement. Have you seen much movement lately in that market?
So that is a good question. We have not seen a ton of movement in that market recently. The House market moved quite dramatically after the Virginia and New Jersey elections.
Right, I noticed that.
Right, it went from like less than 60 to now over.
The
70.
Senate market went up like 3 or 4 points. I mean, it went up for the Democrats, but not by a big number, right?
No, it's not. It's still around 70-30 Republican, and I think that speaks to the difficulty of the Senate map. Right, where if you apply the Democratic performance in Virginia, New Jersey to the House, you could get easily like 230 plus seats. But if you do that in the Senate, you might still fall short in some of these like states like Alaska or Ohio that they need to win.
Right.
I think in those states, you really need for the Senate map to move. I think first you need to know who the nominees are. In states like Alaska, I think.
So if they get a better recruit, if they get Mary Patello in Alaska, that number changes.
Sharice Davids in Kansas.
Sharice Davids in Kansas, that number changes, right?
Strong recruit will help a ton.
Ken Paxton in Texas.
Right, exactly.
Not,
right, well said.
On
the reverse.
Flip side here,
correct.
Depending on who the GOP nominee is. I mean, Paxton could very well win, but yeah.
Yes, weaker recruits obviously help, but in Texas, the big question is, will Jasmine Crockett run in the primary, and that would throw into things. But once you have the lineups, right, I think then that market could move based on who's the nominee, and then as you get more polling and fundraising numbers, that's when I think if there is a blue wave that starts to materialize, then the Senate map will start to move because again, even if Democrats win one of Ohio, Texas, Alaska, they're still not there at the majority at 51. They need 2 of those. So there is like a much higher bar to flip the Senate than the House.
Yeah. I sort of look at it as I think it's the best bargain on the board is Democratic chances of winning the Senate, because the beauty of your markets, right, is you don't have to wait till Election Day. I believe this is something that you're going to see hyped up over the next 9 to 10 months.
Right.
And what is sitting at 34 cents might be sitting at 42 cents. That's a pretty good return on investment.
You just have to, they don't even have to win. You just, got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
That's true.
Jaron,
am I selling you well, Jaron? Am I selling this well? Because that is what, I mean, that's the beauty.
Jaron's like, no, wait. You're supposed to just stay until the end.
But that's keep betting.
In all honesty, I can't tell you how many times in regular betting I'm like, man, I was right about the market on this. I was ahead of the market. And if you're just holding a bet slip, you don't get to take advantage of that.
That's
but
right.
If you own it as a share, you actually get to take advantage of you being ahead of the curve.
Exactly. I mean, you're allowed to enter, exit at any point in time in our markets.
Right.
And that's why I think a lot of people, people are asking in the New York City race, why are people still buying, and Andrew Cuomo, like when he's at 8%, like, do they actually think he's going to win? And, part of my answer was they might think that like a poll or some, data point will come out in the week before the election that causes his odds to spike. And they did to like 15% briefly, and then people, exited. So there's a lot of reasons why people are entering markets at certain points in time. They don't have to hold till the end.
Just, Jaron, one other quick thing that I noticed. Let me go back. I actually did this myself. Hold on. I took this off because this is my screen we're sharing. But okay, the Senate control one. Hold on, let me find it. it's fascinating, like the movement. So here it is, like it basically doesn't move at all, and then you have some movement around the election, and then it goes back to this is too broad. It goes, but it reverts, right? Like here's a month, like it just doesn't, like it doesn't really move, but events move it a little bit, but then it kind of goes back, like here's the election, right? Like here in here, and then it kind of goes back to 70-30. But to Chuck's point, if you're day trading, and my guess is there are people, I mean, Jeremy, you probably speak to this, but there are people who probably do this. Yeah. You could buy it and sell it real fast and make a profit.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Like, there are people who hold till the end. There are people who look at arbitrage, who bet on, if for example, there's like a poll that's about to drop, maybe you can what that poll might say, and then the markets are quite reactive to polling. Sometimes they like overreact a little bit, and then they sort of, fall back down to after people fully digest what the numbers mean beyond the top line. So like there are people who can definitely, if you know the pattern of the markets, arbitrage off of that as well.
I don't want to say the name of this other organization, but do you monitor that other organization in the trading range of that?
Don't give them brand recognition.
Are you always curious if there's a huge gap, which right now there is?
Yeah, like the Vegas sports books.
Right. No, I definitely will like check sometimes out of curiosity. I did not know there was a huge gap at the moment. But like we obviously want to make sure we have like, all the markets plus more. And so sometimes there is like, are there interesting questions that we don't have? But at this point, I think we, have actually, like 50% or like almost double the number of markets in the politics and election space. I think we have a lot of interesting markets that are coming up for the midterms as well. And sort of, we have a lot more certification now to combine markets and elections or compare them in very like interesting and engaging ways, even for seats that are not competitive. So there would be a lot to come.
And you also said you have a margin market on this race, right?
Yes, we do.
Let me see if I can find that. I was
the margin
that's
market.
my let me see if I can.
I
was just trying to find it.
Is it within range? Is it ranges?
Oh, here it is. I found it.
Yes.
I was looking at this earlier, and it looked like the 5 to 10, if I'm not mistaken, was it 0 to 5? Really?
0 to 5 is now 0 to 5 is now 68%. By far the most.
Yes, people now think that even if Van Epps wins, it'll still be a narrower victory than what they were looking at hours ago. And I will say one sort of like, I guess trick that I don't know if you guys are aware of. Have you guys clicked on the live tab? This is to find like elections associated with a certain event. If you click on the live at the very top, it's right next to
I see it. I see it. I got you.
All right.
Yeah.
This in real time. You haven't even paid for this sponsorship here.
Oh, no. Sorry. No, well, actually, like go back to the homepage. Sorry, real quick.
Okay. Yeah. Totally. Hold on. Okay.
And then next to.
I see. Is that in the over on the right side of the screen?
Yes.
This one?
Right there. Yes. That takes you to our calendar. And then if you go down on the left-hand side, there's like an election sort of option. I don't know.
Hold on. Scroll down. Here it is.
There it is. Yep. And that will take you to all the markets we have on a specific election or event. And so
that's cool.
Yeah. So here you can see the winner market, and then you go down, you'll see the margin of victory as well as the turnout.
Oh, look at the voter turnout market. If you're a real degen, that's what you voted. That's what you get into. Hey, we gotta run.
This is like betting on interceptions. This is like betting on interceptions.
So true.
Their player props.
All right, Jaron, I love Kalshi. I'm all over it, man. I look at it more times than I'd like to admit a day.
I'm happy to hear that, and we have some, interesting things we look at next year.
All right, dude. Thanks.
Awesome.
Hey, I'm gonna pull up the map here on mine.
Excellent.
You guys, I think we have Kirk waiting, but go ahead and bring him in.
Let's bring him in.
Let me just
let's go ahead. Kirk Beto, Hotline Editor-in-Chief. Kirk, good to see you. We got you in here. Hello.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
Hey, Kirk.
What's up, guys?
So, in some ways, do you already have the story? Right? When you're thinking about the lead tomorrow, we know this is going to, we can already see this is going to be in the 4 to 7 point range at best for the Republicans, and could be even closer than that. It certainly looks that that's what we're seeing. But and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but that's already the story, is it not?
Right. I think the folks at the NRCC and the DCCC have had their press releases prepped for this race for weeks now.
Yeah.
The NRCC is going to say special elections are special. This is a totally thing that's separate and apart from what you can expect next November. While the Democrats are going to say that, look, this is continuing the momentum that we've had in every special election so far this year and the off-year elections last month. But I kind of set the line for this at about 7.5 or so, because right at 7.5,
we're all such gamblers now, right? Like
I know,
do this, and
it's just infiltrated the culture. That I do too.
Not
Jeffrey. Jeffrey is
I've been
better
doing it
than
forever.
us, I think.
Oh no! My number was 5. Sorry,
No, but just 5. The fact that we all talk over unders.
Or actually, okay,
yes.
full transparency.
I'm talking over unders just because I'm a big fan of the Bill Simmons podcast, and I like it when
yes.
Cousin Sal
Nothing
and
wrong
Bill
with that.
play the
We are too.
over-unders.
We are too.
Yeah, I think
great.
Gambling, especially on politics right now, is what Warren Buffett said. A tax on ignorance here. But for here, I'm setting it at 7.5 because on average in these special congressional elections so far this year, Democrats have outperformed the top of the ticket at about 15 or so percentage points. This is a district that Trump carried by 22 points. So anything closer than 7 means that this was an overperformance than what we've been seeing so far already on special elections. And it looks like right now that under is going to hit.
And Kirk, did I read right? I didn't know this, it's my own ignorance, but that your first gig in journalism was for the Tennessean?
Yes, sir. I covered the Nashville mayor's race in 2015 when I was
Who
still
was
in
it?
college. Belmont University. It was Megan Barry's race. There.
Okay,
And
got it.
Who, by the way, Connection lost in this district in 2024.
Exactly.
Yes.
Jeffrey's the man.
I mean, that tells you that this isn't a race that the Democrats, district Democrats, have totally ignored before.
I mean,
right,
the fact
Kirk?
that Megan Barry ran and Democrats were like, well, maybe she can overperform, but I mean, she lost by 21.
By the way, why didn't she? What if she were the nominee?
It would not be this close here. Megan Barry had to resign in disgrace because of a scandal.
Now. That's
the,
right. That's right. There was a
that'll hurt
bizarre
you.
family. I forgot
right.
this.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
That got weird. Never mind.
Yeah, so I was scratching my head
all
a lot
that.
when she was running against Mark Green in the first place because I covered that campaign. We wrote about her scandal and everything. It was not great. She was supposed to eventually inherit that seat from Jim Cooper whenever he was supposed to retire.
when it was a consolidated, very Democratic
old
district
fifth,
before
the
they
old
exactly
fifth.
right.
Exactly.
It was just Davidson County, basically.
Yep. Yeah, it was all Davidson County was one thing in here, and now Davidson
And it
County
was getting
divided
bluer
into
and bluer.
3
And
districts.
people thought Cooper was too moderate because the district had moved
Totally.
so
I
far
remember that.
to the left on him after being, more competitive over the years.
Speaking of Davidson County, we have nothing out of there.
That's
yeah, I know.
classic
Well, that's
Davidson
to
County.
Kirk's point, though. I mean, it's plus 16, but nothing in Davidson. Like here, by the way, here, just so people know, these grayed out areas, these are counties in the district that just have not reported. And this is going to be overwhelmingly Democratic. The question is how overwhelming. And
the Democratic
how many
nominee in
people vote
24 got 67% out of Davidson.
there. Yeah. And for
Okay,
people, that's Nashville for people who don't, I mean, that's
Yes. So
for people who don't
but
know.
that's
I mean,
that's the number. I mean, and if you tell me that given the enthusiasm on the Democratic side, I'm going to guess that that she gets that she ends up with 70.
Yeah, well, the thing is to win, if you actually if you scroll down, Chris.
yeah, totally.
I could.
Yeah, we've got the
where do you
number
want
there.
Scroll down a little.
By the way, there is. Look at that.
Finally, there it is.
Oh, baby, there we go.
That's what
Speak it into existence
That's
here.
what she needs is something
Plus
more
70.
along those lines.
Woo.
She needs, based on sort of our targets for like a 50-50 race, which
By the
are
way, that
below
flipped
this,
the
and we
entire overall number.
we can look at this in a second,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
Bain needs, if you scroll down, she needs to probably win Davidson by like
Here it is.
57 points. See on these targets, see the little line. If you're running to the left of it, you're doing better. The Democrats doing better than the target for a 50-50 race. And if the dot's to the right of the line, the Republicans doing better. So again, this is where like the turnout question and just how blue and Davidson, Nashville turns out to be is a very important deal, because you'll notice it does seem to be the one that is about the furthest distance from that target
She's doing
line
the
right now.
She's over.
It is early
That
vote
doesn't mean
drop.
she's going to win, because
Yeah,
again,
this is
there's
early
the
vote.
election day vote and all this other stuff.
Jeffrey,
but
do we
it's-
see, is every first drop early in Tennessee? Do we assume that?
I mean, that's my understanding, is
Yes.
that these
Okay.
are, and I was looking at the counts like in Montgomery County, and it was basically the exact same number basically of early votes that I knew were cast there. So
Jeffrey, you're right. It's all early vote here. You know, I spent a lot of late nights in the 111 Broadway in the Tennessean office, just refreshing the all the election results there. What I'm really curious about, look, this Davidson County is where former Vice President Kamala Harris came out for a Get Out to Vote rally for her in her first, post presidential campaign appearance. You know, Steve Cohen, who's the only Democrat in the Tennessee congressional delegation, really
Memphis.
he really
for those.
poo-pooed that. He was saying
Harold
that,
Ford Jr.'s old district.
Yeah, it was stupid to have her come out there, that he would have preferred a more moderate to campaign with her. Obviously, Steve Cohen did not volunteer his moderate services to campaign with Afton Ben, but it seems to at least galvanize voters in Davidson County. What I'm really going to be watching here in the next little bit here is those Williamson County numbers. That's the suburban area. That's Brentwood. That's Franklin. And Chuck, you and I have talked about this in the past, but that's that area of the state where, if this was somewhere like Kansas, for example, it's almost like the Johnson County of Tennessee, where there's a lot more college-educated folk moving in there,
very
a lot
affluent,
more wealthier people moving in there from outside Nashville.
Right, but what my friend Brad Todd will tell you, because I've been having this debate with him. I've always said, he's a Tennessee native. Many of you know him. We're not related. We're brothers from other mothers.
Love Brad.
What he will say is, he said, look, a lot of these Nashville metro area transplants, right? These people that were not native Tennesseans that have moved into the area, they've moved from, he goes, you really notice it on Saturdays in the fall. So he goes, when you drive into these neighborhoods, they have Ohio State flags, Michigan flags, Wisconsin flags. They all moved from the Midwest to Nashville and to that area. And he says it's usually due to taxes, right? It's like they're moving from states with taxation. Tennessee is a no-tax state. So he said that's why these new residents haven't turned the area as blue than, say, all the New Yorkers and New Jerseyans that have moved to North Carolina and to Charlotte and to the Triangle. And they have, right? That is a much bluer area now. Now, I'm waiting to see that develop. I mean, it does feel as if Nashville is moving in the same direction, just not as fast as the Atlanta suburbs or the Northern
it's
Virginia
more
suburbs.
Nashville proper, and it just hasn't quite happened, if it will even happen, to the peripheral counties around Davidson.
Right.
But Davidson proper has definitely moved a lot to the left. It's just sort of unlike a place like Atlanta, as you pointed out, or Charlotte, or the Raleigh Triangle area. Some of the counties on the edge of the main county, like Wake, in where Raleigh is, or Mecklenburg, where Charlotte is. Mecklenburg actually might be a little bit of a closer parallel here, because actually the counties around Charlotte have not gotten as blue, or have not gotten lighter red to the degree that the ones around like the Triangle have in
That's
North
true,
Carolina.
which
so
is
maybe
why North
Nashville and
Carolina
Charlotte are
continues
actually
to be what it is, right?
Maybe they're a more interesting parallel, but Charlotte's bigger. So, Republicans, they did just redraw, two of the congressional districts in North Carolina. And there were some, I know, at least in the election Twitter universe of people drawing maps, there were some pretty ugly versions where people tried to crack Mecklenburg and Charlotte across red districts. But in the end, they obviously didn't try to do that. But it's sort of the same idea. You have a lot of red turf surrounding a lot of blue turf, but there are more people in Charlotte than there are in Nashville.
I want to, Kirk, just ask you about, I'm fascinated about how Afton Bain became the nominee. I mean, she is clearly not, like, if you had to draw up, when we did this live stream in Virginia on election night 2025, we were talking about how Abigail Spanberger is like the exact candidate, like north of Richmond, former CIA, moderate voting rate, like exactly what you draw up. Afton Bain is not what you would draw up to make. She is not Childers in Mississippi from 20 years ago. She is not Connor Lamb from Pennsylvania, who pulled off similar upsets. How does she wind up at, I know she's in the state legislature. Like, how does she wind up as the nominee?
But I've known Afton for a few years now, and I've covered her before she was a state lawmaker. She won her race in 2023. She comes from the activist and progressive organizing background. And I think what benefited her the most and what she'll point to very readily is the infrastructure that she's built up through that organizing background. Talking with a lot of Democrats in Tennessee in these final few weeks here, they were also very hesitant about, especially her more progressive background, how open she is on social media about her more liberal beliefs. But one thing that they had to concede was that her ground game is just incredible. That she is organizing door knockers, that she is organizing get out the vote. She is going.
Sounds like what we heard about Mom Donnie.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she's connecting with a lot of people. And I think beyond from what's going to happen today, no matter how the dust settles out here, I think her campaign is going to inspire a lot of different Tennessee politicians in the Democrat Party to step up here. Because before this, it used to be kind of a set mold of what type of Democrat would run in these races here. But I think Afton is going to inspire a lot more people from different backgrounds to try and throw their hat in the ring here. Now, they might not have the same infrastructure that she has, but you got to remember in the primary, she got outspent pretty handedly by her opponent, by her Democratic opponents there. There was Darren Copeland, who is a local political strategist, pumped, I think a few $100,000 of his own money into this race.
Hey, Lauren, would you switch it to my screen, because this was pertinent to what Kirk is talking about.
Great.
Which is the primary result.
Yes, thank you, Jeffrey.
No, Jeffrey, why don't you run through those there? Because I think her seemingly underperformance, like she didn't win a whole lot of these counties outright here, but it was that organizing effort she had everywhere that kind of overcame that deficit.
That's exactly it. I mean, she only carried one county, and that was Williamson, right? But she finished second or third in a lot of places in a four-person race where 28% got you the win. That thing, you had a lot of candidates who were locally strong in certain spots, but then Vincent Dixie, for instance, carries Davidson, another state legislator, carries Davidson, finishes not outside the top three everywhere else, basically nearly. It's that kind of situation, and obviously Copeland did well, I bet, in some of the peripheral TV market kind of situations, maybe because he had a little bit more money and spent on ads. But
I think he was the only candidate on the Democratic primary who actually got on TV.
On TV, there you go. Yeah. And so Bain,
is that all that's all Nashville media market, Kirk? So it's not cheap.
Yeah, it's not cheap at all, and that's why he had to pump all that money in.
Yeah. Yep.
But in the end, Bain won of super. I mean, you had four candidates hovering around 25%. I mean, that's
amazing. She got less than 9,000 votes, and she became the nominee. I mean, it just shows you in these like small turnout races, like the difference between first and fourth is 1,700 votes. Like,
isn't that nuts? Isn't that nuts? But again, I think it just goes to the organizing effort that she put behind here. She's one of those candidates who really inspires the base of the Democratic Party. And what we've seen again and again throughout all these special elections this cycle is that turning out the base is what matters the most. And her progressive bona fides, the work she's done in the legislature already to kind of combat the tax on groceries, which, she came in with a more progressive organizing background, but it really attacked that affordability issue before it became the issue du jour for Democrats. That's really helped her. And again, it's the organization here because of that activist background.
We keep talking about her. I mean, I guess Van Epps knew that, and I look at him and I feel like, he's done everything he was supposed to do inside the party, right? He has served in the state, and he's sort of
veteran.
Like, right. He paid his dues. He's checked every correct box, but it wasn't a campaign that stood out.
No. Afton's been the main character of this race since the primary. If you look at any of the ads on the Republican side, they've all been about her. It's been very few mentions about Matt Van Epps himself or even President Trump. It's all been about Afton here. And even his bio ads have been very much playing up it's almost like he took a page from Mikey Sherrill's book where he plays up his service as a military helicopter pilot who's been in combat missions. It's like that playbook again, without mentioning Trump, but attacking Afton. She's been the main character.
that to me was the most striking thing about the ads that I'd looked at, the ones we played earlier, is this is the first time we've seen candidates like, you know, in a House race with this, that run this far, you know, it's a big crack in the coalition that you have somebody running in this red of a district not saying Trump's name.
Exactly. That's been the most striking thing to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to make sure we
big.
pointed that out, that there's the Republican ads have not really mentioned Trump, whether it's the candidate or the outside groups. That they focus on Bain. She's given them some material.
Which, if
to
you
work
go
with,
back,
they-
if you
you
go
know,
back a year, every candidate
Yeah.
running was like, and I'm a Donald Trump Republican. Like that was how you
Yeah.
won, you know, like that. I mean, it was a formula. By the way, I just got a text from our friend Ben Jacobs, who has worked in a million different places, great journalist. He is at the Afton Bain campaign, like party or event. So I just asked him to send us like, what's the mood like? I'll keep you updated. But thank you for watching, Ben.
No, he's at that Marathon Music Works too, right? I used to go to concerts and church there when I was in school.
nice.
Nothing like the South, concerts and church. That's how we should do it. In New
you would
England,
be there
we didn't have
Saturday
any
night for
concerts and
a
church.
yeah, you'd be there for Saturday night for Alabama Shakes, and then you'd be there, you know, less than 12 hours later for church. It was great.
See,
So
Kirk
Kirk-
Beto has good taste in music too.
I know from my own experience at the hotline that you've probably already either assigned the task of putting together this sort of a retirement watch list, right? We have your out of the house list, but the ones that you've already been kind of keeping an eye on, and how much bigger does that list get? And does it get much bigger if she actually wins tonight?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to James Downs, our House reporter, who's given the thankless task of maintaining that list. So that's growing all the time. And if she wins tonight, or even if it's within that 5-point margin that Jeffrey's talking about, I imagine that list is going to grow a lot more before the end of the year. Now, November typically is the month that has the highest number of announced. November, the off year, has the highest amount of announced retirements over the last 10 years or so. But if this result is as close as
December
it is
2nd,
if it's as close as
could be
we're on
December.
track to be, we expect a lot more right now.
Yeah. All right, dude, you're the man. I didn't know the Tennessee connection, but I'm thrilled. Thank you for the updated where Afton Bain's
You know,
party
Chris,
is. That
the
is
fact
really
that
useful
you don't
information.
realize the kind of operation we run here. You know,
I know. It's a
what do you
high-end
expect?
operation.
It is.
We don't
That's
just put
right.
anybody on air.
No,
right.
it's the vetting process and everything.
Yes.
This is great.
Kirk
no
had to
idea
fill out a
what Kirk had to go
75-page
through.
Google Doc
That's
to get
right.
on
The
here.
candidate answer form is incredible.
Unbelievable.
Quite the background
We've coached
check.
them not to do it. Kirk Beto, good to see you.
I
See you
want to
guys.
just Kirk, while we're bringing in Aaron from Cook Political Report, I just wanted to. Ben Jacobs texted me, said, Democrats haven't had much to celebrate in Tennessee, so people are jubilant. They're cheering on Bain's lead while this giant beer hall is getting pretty packed. People are lining up at the bars here and blaring Stevie Wonder. So, I mean, how bad could it be? It's a Tuesday night in Nashville.
Well, first of all, it's Nashville. There's going to be live
I
music
know.
somewhere. So
Every night's
why
a
are we
Friday
listening
night in
to
Nashville,
Why is
too.
it Stevie Wonder? Go have some live music, guys. Come on.
Seriously.
All right, let's bring in Aaron Covey from the Cook Political Report. Hello, Aaron. Nice to see you.
Hey guys, good to see y'all.
So let's start where I just ended with Kirk Beto, because I know you do this too. How big is your retirement watch list at this point, right? People that haven't said anything, but you've been wondering, boy, how much stomach do they have for this? Do they really want to be in the minority if that's where this is headed? And how much impact on that list does tonight have?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think so. We're at about 23 House Republicans, I think, by my last count, who have announced that they're not running again.
Or running
which
for another
is
office or something,
or
right?
or running for another office. A lot of them are not. Most of them are running for governor, it appears. But yeah, in terms of quote unquote retirements, that's where we're at, which is kind of similar to what we saw at this point in 17. But I do think there are probably, I mean, I can think of at least like a half dozen folks who are rumored to be considering retiring on the Republican side. The folks who are in competitive districts who are the most important to watch would be people like Bill Huizenga in Michigan, has not said whether or not he's running for re-election, and he is Not thrilled about a number of developments that have happened for him personally over the past several months in terms of getting the gavel on his committee and being forced out of the Senate race there essentially by Trump. And then you have Darrell Issa, who, I guess may just run for Congress in Texas, which is ridiculous.
That's unbelievable.
Here we are.
I mean, that's unbelievable. It's kind of the Crockett district, or not really. They cracked and packed Dallas, and it all depends. I mean, it's not the first time we've seen people try to do this, and it's amazing how many candidates from other states try to pop into both Texas and Florida and think, hey, why not? Everybody else lives here. Why can't I?
So a sitting member, what was the last time that happened?
A sitting member? I don't know.
Sitting member moving. I actually was looking for this, and I
was too.
Because we've got the Byron Donalds open slot in Florida has
former members.
Mike Collins, Chris Collins.
Collins, Madison Cawthorn.
We got 2X, and then
Catalina
some other.
Lau.
Yeah, there's another embarrassing
Catalina Lau and Jim Oberweis, two Illinois transplants.
That's right, Oberweis.
There. Yes. Yeah. Two failed congressional candidates.
You've also got Nadler's district in New York 12, which I think is the good Democratic
the George Conway seat.
Yeah, George Conway. Although I think he actually lived there for a while. Apparently,
he did at least live there. Apparently.
Okay, I mean, if you've worked in New York or DC, you've probably accidentally spent the night in that district somewhere. But sorry. I once overnighted in this district. Vote for me. I've changed planes in Dallas. I'm Darrell Issa. I approve this message.
DFW, yes. Looks like Williamson.
Wait, what was it? Wait, quickly. What was it that Darrell Issa and his brother, they were like,
it's the car
thieves, and they invented the car alarm.
They were
like the most amazing story. That's why he's
on
rich.
The steering wheel, right?
Oh
yes.
Yeah. Well,
what was it called?
Well, they basically. I mean, if you remember the old woo 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 those car alarms, you could thank Darrell Issa for those car alarms.
It's totally fascinating.
And he's the wealthiest member of Congress, right?
Yes.
No, I thought McCall was.
Be up there.
Yeah,
I think McCall is because McCall is married into that gigantic radio fortune.
So he's like second or third. Yeah, he's doing fine.
But the fascinating thing is Issa and his brother, like the reason that they invented the stealing the car thing is because I believe one of them at least was
a car thief.
A car?
Yeah.
Anyway,
an actual thief.
Sorry, nature called. I just wanted to pop back in with my random Darrell Issa fact.
Hi,
Aaron, again.
Hi. Yeah.
Aaron, back to you. Sort of the big shift here. Look, while you were talking, we got some Williamson County in, which is the third sort of the third most populous county. And
here it is right there, Chuck.
To me, an early vote drop that slightly favors Van Epps. I would assume, Jeffrey, you're a little disappointed if you're Bain. You hoped to win the early vote here, didn't you?
I mean, I think for Bain, you would want to be a little farther ahead in a place like Montgomery, the light blue on that, and closer to 50-50 in Williamson, because the election day vote is going to probably be more right-leaning. And the fact that, Van Epps is up by 10, 11 points in Williamson off the bat is probably bodes well for him. And so even if Bain can hold up her margins in Davidson, if she led by 70 in Davidson once we got election day vote, that would be very notable.
But that would be a shock. I mean,
that would be a shock. That would be a shock.
You look at this now, and it's like, it certainly looks like if you're holding a ticket that has Van Epps winning somewhere between 1 and 4 points, you're feeling pretty good right now.
I think that's probably right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we're looking at probably a single-digit victory. Maybe
but a low single digit, which is what I mean. That's an earthquake of 6.5 Richter scale. It's not in the sevens, but that's a pretty big deal. No, Aaron?
It is a big deal. It's about in line with what we have seen from the other specials on the House, on the congressional side so far this cycle. Those Florida races, obviously the Democrats lost them by double digits, but they did overperform Harris by over 20 points. In both cases. And so, it wouldn't be, I don't think, totally outside the realm of possibility. And I guess going into this, I think my assumption was that Van Epps probably won by mid to high single digits. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely not good for Republicans. And as you know, the narrative is a big part of why we saw so much Republicans spitting at the last minute. You know, of course, there's like a chance that there could be an upset here, but it's also just that they don't want to have an embarrassing result.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I'm not going to speak for the decision desk guys, and Jeffrey, you know how they operate better than I do. This is obviously I'm newer in this partnership. But I'm guessing they're waiting for Election Day vote out of Davidson, and then they'll call this.
No, that's exactly it. The big question is just what did turnout look like in Davidson,
right,
in terms of Election Day compared to other spots in the district, and just how does it compare to the early vote? Is it notably more Republican?
Yeah.
Is it similar? I think if we get a drop from Davidson, and it's sort of what we're expecting, which is it'll move Bain's lead down to 60 or something. There's probably a decent shot that we'll view it as a Van Epps projection.
Are there moral victories in politics? I go back and forth on this all the time. Like, let's assume, and again, Chuck and I are the guys who do the random speculation. Jeffrey does the actual math. But let's assume that Van Epps wins Aaron by 4. Okay. What does that mean? Like, as you are then looking at the map and trying to be, ahead of the curve of like, I always wonder about that, because it's like I for so many years Democrats were very focused on winning moral victories and Republicans won actual victories. Like, is close matter or not? Like, do we remember this in 6 months? Like, oh, remember she almost came close to winning? Like, what do you make of that as you try to look into the future?
I mean, I do think for the narrative, yes, it matters, because a lot of people more broadly they're not looking at the comparison to the actual baseline of these districts. They're looking at how close it was. So I do think, in terms of like the media narrative, I think, Bain coming 4 points away will get a lot more attention than the results. And again, like the Florida specials at the beginning of the year, even if we're looking at overperformance, they were roughly the same. And of course, I think the closer we get to the midterms, the more these specials matter, because the more accurate of a pulse we can take on the national environment. But, it is, ultimately one data point. So yeah, I'm generally, I would say, more conservative about reading into these cases.
Tell me your, I used to have this debate with Charlie, back in the day, because, sort of likely lean toss up. Do you put a margin of expectation in your head when you decide something's a toss up? Is something a toss up if it's 0 to 5? It's lean if it's 5 to 10. It's likely if it's 10 to 15, and it's solid after that. Am I putting too much math behind that, or how would you describe it to our lay people? This is not lay people watching. These are junkies who love this stuff.
I was gonna say, if you're watching this, you're into politics.
Yeah, I think they'd love to know when they see, hey, this goes from likely to lean. What does that mean numerically to you? What numerical message are you trying to send?
It's a good question. I think there's always a tension with this job between the margin and like the probability itself, right? Mm-hmm. And so like we have this rated as likely Republican because I think Van Epps likely wins this race, and that is true regardless of whether he wins by 10 points or 4 points.
Yep.
But it does, I mean, in terms of the optics, it doesn't matter. And if we have a race in solid where the candidate who we had in like solid R, the Republican, wins by 4 points, that is not a great look on our part, and probably means that we like missed some signs leading up into it. But I think we don't have like a hard, I would say, margin. I will say in terms of like if at the beginning of the year when we're setting these ratings, what we're mostly looking at is of course the most recent election results, and if like a race was like within like 3 points, that's kind of like going in toss up automatically, roughly. There's exceptions there, but we don't have like
having worked for the Cook Political Report. It's like all good things, a little bit of art, a little bit of science, put it all together.
Right.
I look, and like,
I think that's just the reality. That's how you do it. That's how it works.
No, and it's one of those that I'm it was always if you think a race is going to be close, but you always are, like New Jersey's a great example in general. It was always going to be a 3 or 4 point race in general, not New Jersey governor most recently, but back in the day. But you always knew the Democrats were going to win. And you're like, but if the race is going to be a 3-point race, do you really want to put it in lean? Shouldn't it be a toss up? Like, how do you assess a race like that, Aaron, where you know it's going to be close, maybe Iowa Senate is a good one, right? Where you just sort of know, but there's a high floor, low ceiling for the Democrats.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think Iowa Senate we have currently in likely Republican.
Mm-hmm.
I do think I think we can be a little bit more nuanced about it the more data we have. And when we're talking about a special election where there have been 3 public polls, there's been some private polling as well. But, we don't have a lot of data points to look at.
Right.
And so I think, if it looks like the Republican, if I feel relatively confident the Republican is going to win, I think that is a likely race ultimately, even if I think, okay, maybe the Republican wins by 5 points. But, I think with the Senate race, the closer we get to it, we'll have a lot more data. And if we're seeing, okay, like consistently, this is within the margin of error, a Republican should win this, but it is close, then I think that would be like a moment where we would maybe shift it into lean.
So let's talk about how big is the House playing field?
Yeah. Great question.
What is the Cook Political Report's view of competitive races? And I assume anything at likely or less essentially is in the competitive column, right?
Yeah. I mean, we can, sometimes we define likely races as those with the potential to become competitive, but roughly in terms of when we're talking about the battlefield, I need to pull up my ratings because I
was gonna say, Lauren, if you want to pull up my screen, I actually can have.
Yeah.
By the way,
we can do that.
the 2 markets, Kalshi and Poly Market, have both gone to 99% for Van Epps because I think the New York Times put out an estimation. Yeah,
they do. They have an estimate. Yes,
they put an estimate.
The needle.
And everybody you guys saw it. It was just like they put out an estimate, and it was like goodbye. Everybody was like, "Shoo! I'm gonna quickly go buy some Van Epps."
Right. So you could just look at the estimate there to see that.
There you go.
Just go to the source. So
how many
Aaron, it should be the map up there.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. So you got 18 seats in toss-up right now. Skews much more towards Republican. And then, I think we have currently at this point, the overall playing field is like relatively split even. But, I think with a lot of these races, if we're looking at the fundamentals, like in this likely Republican column, for example, you have a number of seats that are like Trump single digits. And if we start to see polls in these places that show that these races are going to be close, then those will start to shift into the lean and maybe toss-up category.
So you have 18 in toss-up. How many in lean? I'm looking at here is another 12 in lean.
Another 18 in lean.
18. 10 lean Democrat, 8 lean Republican.
So 36.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I mean, if we're talking about like the just like the straight presidential numbers, the playing field is obviously smaller, as y'all know, than it was in 18 because you have pre-redistricting, you had 3 Republicans sitting in Harris seats. You had another, I believe, 10 Republicans.
Right, it's very sorted.
Trump,
the map is very sorted. Yeah, there's just not that many.
Right, but that's also because Democrats are only 3 seats away from the majority, and so for a good night for Democrats doesn't look like them flipping 40 seats, but of course they have a much higher floor than they did in 2018.
I would say too, like I'm with Aaron that conservative is probably best when we come a special election in December, right? All these things, but man, like if I'm the National Republican Congressional Committee and that Ashley Hinson open seat in Iowa. Like after this election, I don't love that one. I don't love the Fitzpatrick one in Pennsylvania. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like I'm not saying they're going to lose, but if I'm Brian Fitzpatrick, I'm more nervous
I'll give you one
than I was a month ago.
I'll give you one if Mike Turner decides not to walk.
Totally, that's exactly the kind of seat.
Dayton, you're sitting there going, he's a perfect fit for it. But what if he's not there, right?
Yep.
Yeah, totally. Or if Corey Mills is on the ballot in Florida 7. That's another
Right,
one.
if Corey Mills
Maybe that
is on the
maybe
ballot.
that
Ah.
district is more interesting than
Yeah.
you'd expect. Yeah.
Right.
And aren't they going to redistrict in Florida
Yeah,
too?
it does.
They are.
It sounds like DeSantis is playing a call or in the spring, right? I think was the last I heard.
Yeah. I don't quite
Although I'm
understand
not
the
really
timing
sure
of
about
that.
the timing with that.
Yeah, it's because
Yeah,
and
how
I
are you
think
going to
it
do
seems
the
like-
map and the primaries and?
Well,
The
they have a
primary's
late
in August.
primary.
They
Yeah,
have
so
a
they
primary in
Oh,
have
August.
time to do it. But what the problem is, I guess for them is that they're sort of, it seems like, waiting for the Supreme Court to rule on the Voting Rights Act.
Which
That's what he
Which is
said.
probably not gonna
Actually,
happen
the
until
governor said that he
June.
wanted to wait.
That's
to
going
know
to be
if-
at the end of June.
I
early
don't
Basically.
July.
understand. Yeah, I
how
don't.
right.
Who knows?
He wants.
I guess if they do happen to, if there is an outside chance that they could, of course, issue a decision earlier, but
Yeah.
most folks I've talked to don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
This is where I don't get into projecting things. When it comes to
Yeah.
court
Yeah,
decisions.
that's a whole.
yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
talk about opaque. I don't think
Yeah.
you want to go into trying to nail down
Well,
exact timing.
No.
See, this is where I find.
Lauren, can you?
This is
Lauren,
where I
can
find
you
the
do me a
prediction
favor and pull up
markets.
my screen just so we have the same.
Yeah.
I want to just put the results up because we have more of Williamson in now. Go ahead, keep going, Chuck. Sorry.
Yeah, no. This is where I find the prediction markets, like when on those Supreme Court rulings, to be. It's like you're just taking a poll of what people think, not necessarily because
Totally.
unless
Right.
some clerk of the court is who's up to write the opinion is sneakily that is. I mean, and I guess that's going to be the hell. I mean, if sports gamblers pay college kids to tell them who
I
showed up
mean,
to practice in pads
We're
today.
not far from it. I don't think.
Yeah, I was
Chuck.
just going to say you're going to have people trying to, find clerks on LinkedIn to see if they can get secret information.
And just
on
for
these
people who are
prediction
looking, look, Van Epps is, I know a lot of people
It
are
is.
freaking
I am
out
sup-
about Afton
I mean,
Bain, but now
There's
Van
only
Epps
one
is-
reason not to call this yet, and I understand
Yeah.
why it hasn't.
It's Davidson,
It's that
right?
we
Yeah.
don't have any election day out of date.
Right here. This
And
is still
if
the
for-
early vote there,
That's
right?
right.
Right.
Never
Jeffrey?
mind.
we just
got it.
I was
We just
I was
called it.
waiting for the thing because I had just gotten word from folks that we were going to project it from Matt Van Epps, and really I think what did it is we don't have the election day from Davidson yet, but we got more out of Williamson and Montgomery, which
Yeah.
is the second
Yeah.
or the third and second respectively.
There's
largest vote
Williamson.
centers.
He's up 18, 19.
And so the election day vote was building out the lead, and in Montgomery, which is where Clarksville is,
Yep.
that was Bain probably needed to carry that narrowly to have a shot.
Yeah.
And now Van Epps is up by 4 with the election day vote starting to come in. So it's just sort of the path for her has probably narrowed to non-existent essentially.
Yep. Yeah, I
so
mean,
that's why we
Davidson will come in
projected it.
at this point.
I mean, Davidson could make it close, and
I was just going to say,
Wait,
it's likely
but
to
have
make
we
it.
done-
5-point margin?
Jeffrey,
3 to
have we
4
done
point
our
margin.
cool graphic and the whole thing yet? If
Geez,
we're
we need to do the cool graphic.
we need to do the that's
Lauren,
like my
we need to
favorite
do
part
the
with the
graphic.
music.
Hit the
Yes.
music.
There we go. Aaron, welcome to our welcome to our
Wow.
show.
I live for that. That gets me going.
That does.
Sad when we just have one result, though.
I
Yeah, we
know.
only get to do
I
that
know.
Well, we're thinking about Jersey City Mayor. You want to stick around for that?
Did we
Yeah.
prep?
Hold on.
Let
Let me just get while we're here. Jim McGreevey is going, I think, to lose. Just for people
Okay.
like former governor of New Jersey, he made
Not
it into a
looking good.
runoff.
Yeah.
He's gotten 2,334 more votes than me and Chuck, who are not on the ballot.
Fair enough.
So,
Fair enough. Yeah.
Aaron, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sticking a little
for
longer too. We appreciate
having
you.
me on. Yeah.
Go check out the Cook Political Report with Amy Walter. I used to work there. It's where I got my start. It is amazing. They
Yeah.
now have Chuck. You realize how many people they have? there
Aaron's
now?
also
It's like
hot
a- it's like a
dog.
I'm well
By
aware.
the way,
My
Like a
own
posse.
colleague Carrie Dan is the managing editor. You're
Yeah.
like, man,
It's
This is such a-
unbelievable.
it was literally Charlie putting his
It was
finger
a
in the
mom
wind
and
going,
pop
"Yeah,
operation
okay,
back
just-
in the
no, I'm
day."
just kidding. Hiring like idiots off the street named Chris Cillizza to help
They'd
out,
hire
you know?
anyone at that place
Yeah.
back in the day. I mean, me, Amy Walter. All right. Thanks, Aaron.
What was he thinking? Thank
Great
you.
to see you, Aaron.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So, what do we, all right. So, just for people getting caught up, Decision Desk has called Tennessee 7 for for Matt Van Epps. What do we make? Like, give us your numbers based breakdown here, Jeffrey. And I know all the votes not in. It's 71%. I think if Lauren is still sharing my
Right,
screen,
but the biggest
What is
chunk
your-
of vote we're waiting for
is Davidson.
Nashville.
So we would
Yeah.
assume it's going to get a little bit closer than it's like 8 now. does this surprise you? Is this in keeping kind of with what you thought? And then Chuck, same question to you probably, but let's let Jeffrey go first.
Yeah, I mean, look, to some extent, it depends on to all transparency. Michael Pruser of Decision Desk, our head of data science, he was like, he likes to get everybody's number before the night. I don't always share it because I don't want to be like terribly wrong. Exactly. I did say Van Epps by 4. Was my
feeling
that
still feel pretty good about that.
Which, well, we'll see. Yeah. I think it could be close.
Depends on Davidson. Yeah,
it depends on how much.
Somewhere around 5 on one side or the other, and I think it gets down to let's say it's 5 points. Like I don't know, it'd be 5, 6. Who knows exactly what it's going to be?
But around that area,
in a district that Trump carried by 22 percentage points, that would be a 16, 17. If it's 4 points, 18 point swing. And that would be very much in keeping with the swing that we've seen in other districts, in some of the other special elections in this cycle. The Florida 6th was a 16 point swing to the left. Virginia's 11th in September was a 16 point swing to the left. Arizona 7th in September was a 17 point swing to the left. Now, there were a couple that had larger swings. The Florida 1st, Matt Gaetz's old district, also way back in April.
Like a 30, right? It was something.
Well, 23 in just margin.
23, and the Republicans still won. Just in case you were wondering how Republican that district is.
Florida Panhandle District, it's Trump had carried it by 37, so 23 wasn't going to cut it. And the Texas had a special election in the 18th congressional district, really just the first round of it in November. So if you throw that in, it swung 28 points to the left, but it's a little like you're just looking for sample size if you include it. But overall, if you include all 5 of those, you're talking about an average of a 20 point swing to the left. If you don't include the Texas case, it's a little lower than that. And this would be in keeping, so I think it's sort of like, okay, well, we turned over another tarot card or something. We turned over another tea leaf, and it sort of said some of the same things that we've been seeing. And so it's like, well, if you're, looking ahead to 2026 and thinking about what we just saw in November, this is a result that is in keeping with a Democratic leaning political environment. Is it one that is like the, end is nigh for the GOP kind of one? Maybe not, but it is still obviously concerning for them.
No, but I think, look, I think tonight, I think that when you look at the panic level that got hit sort of about a week ago amongst Republicans on this, I think there was a real fear that the bottom was going to fall out, right? You had this sort of, right, you had a series of really bad headlines. You had this sort of the fracture. First, it was Epstein fracture, Marjorie Taylor Greene fracture. You're like going, hey, is this Trump coalition about to collapse, right? And you've had a really grumpy House Republican conference because they were all held away from the shutdown. They didn't like that, right? So you were just wondering, oh my God, if they lose here, this whole thing could. And what I think.
Oh, it would be a total panic.
Correct.
I mean, it would have been a total, whether it should be or not, it would have been a total panic within the Republican Party.
This is one of those things where when you look at it, if you weren't paying attention at all, you're going, oh, wow, here we go. Democrats really. But in some ways, you got to give the Republicans and you got to give the Republican campaign arms some credit for saving this, because the cost of losing this, whatever margin it is at this point, the cost of losing would have been
way bigger.
So enormous. They definitely had to throw money in here, and there's definitely stuff they're going to learn, but they're not going to have a Democratic nominee. This is what the Democrats are likely to start whispering to reporters tomorrow morning. Hey, look at how well the Democrat did despite not fitting the district, right? That's going to be
that's
spin.
My
spin.
That's my takeaway is, and you're never going to know, but if they knew that the race was going to be as close as it wound up being, I assume that they didn't focus a lot on it because they were like R plus 22, and they were like, oh, well, whoever wins and it'll be fine. But she is uniquely not. She just needs, like, it's the Williamson thing, right? It's like, it's exactly what Jeffrey was saying. It's not, I mean, David said yes, but it's the winning the pinkish, non-hardcore rural MAGA counties that hurt her. And the I'm very radical, which was played in every ad, and her going out trying to like get on, like, we're gonna get these ICE people, like all that stuff. I think it people are like, she's not like us.
But this is the first time they had to run a campaign essentially running away from Trump a little bit.
Yep.
That's frankly, that might be the most notable thing about this.
Yep.
Chuck, I think so.
Yep.
And learning how to do it, learning that they're not, I think Van Epps was a perfect bio for them to for a Republican campaign.
Vanilla Republican, right.
And Afton Bade was the perfect opponent. It's what every Republican incumbent will dream of, right? They want somebody that they can paint as, not, from outside the mainstream of their district.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of those, it literally will depend on what eye you're looking at these results on, right? If you're looking at it through your left eye or your right eye.
Yep.
We did get a few more votes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll
scroll. Yeah.
I was gonna say we got a few more votes from Davidson, if we're just thinking about margins in this race. And so it's now at about 6 points.
Yeah, it's floating between 5 and 6. Yep.
With three-fourths of the vote in from Davidson now. But still, at this point, it looks like probably like 40% of the vote left, 35% of the vote left is from Davidson. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be in the mid-single digits. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure which side of 5, but it's going to be in the mid-single digits.
I will say this: I think the turnout is remarkable for a special election in December. Sorry, I find that remarkable. Over 120. We're going to have 130,000, 140,000 votes.
Yeah, so you figure with Davidson, you're going to be over
in a congressional special.
Jeffrey,
you've seen
it might be 150 in the end.
How many special congressional elections have we seen where the turnout didn't even break 100,000, right, in total vote?
And there weren't only 22 shopping days until Christmas. I mean, that seemed like a uniquely bad time.
I actually would like to go back and do a closer look at this, but I do think special election turnout is higher in recent times, and I think that may just be a reflection of all election turnout. Has been higher in recent years because
I've said this about Donald Trump. Whatever you think of Donald Trump, he has really engaged the democracy.
That's turnout machine for everybody.
Have gone exactly. He is. It's funny if you're forced to pay attention, then more people will pay attention and vote.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I got to get on the road. I got to drive to. I'm in Champaign, Urbana. I got to drive to Indianapolis. I am thrilled we could do. Can I just say thank you to all the people behind the scenes, Lauren and Nasa, who helped organize everybody at DDHQ, who helped. We basically decided yesterday to do a full operation here. So huge credit to everybody who did this and everyone who tuned in. Look, this is my favorite thing to do. So I hope it's fun for people who watch.
I've enjoyed the comments here. We've had really smart commentary, really dumb commentary too, but there's really smart commentary as well. I've tried my best, frankly, to monitor it and guide some conversation so that we're kind of responding to the conversation, to the reasonable conversation that's being had online.
Oh, so, shut up, Chuck. Sorry, I was just trying to mimic the comment section.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was just, you're right. I was just reading.
Actually, he says that to me, whether the comments are nice or mean. That doesn't.
So what we'll do here is for the next hour, Jeffrey and I are going to break down the ACC tiebreaker situation and I'll try to explain to America.
Guys. UVA, we did it. We made it to the ACC championship game, and it was totally legit. There's no question marks.
Yours are legit. Yeah. Look,
I just think Notre Dame deserves that. I just think Notre Dame deserves that last spot. That's how I feel. And I think the ACC commissioner is doing a great job.
Impeach Jim Phillips.
Do you realize that rage bait is the Oxford English Dictionary word of the year? I was like, isn't rage bait 2 words? But that's a whole other thing. But I'm just rage baiting.
The ACC tiebreakers could be a source of rage bait. In fact,
that is true.
Oh, yeah. Look, I only say this half in jest. I think if Duke wins the ACC, it's a fireable offense for the leadership of the ACC.
Yeah.
It is a fireable offense if they don't get a single participant into the playoff.
Chuck, I'm a UVA fan, and I know how this goes. We very well might blow.
I petrified of you guys.
It's uniquely possible.
You guys UVAing this up. Don't UVA it up,
on Duke. So now Duke's like, well, we've played you once. Maybe we'll play better the second time around. Anyway.
All right,
guys.
Y'all.
We will see you. Hopefully, maybe by the Texas primary. Who knows? Maybe we'll throw in another special if one gets close.
Who knows what else will come down the pike.
Thanks to everybody who listened.
DDHQ rocks. Support DDHQ. Also Chuck and I, but DDHQ is doing amazing work. Thank you all.
Thank you
Bye,
very
guys.
much.
Thanks, everybody.
You guys have a good one.
All right,
You got it.
take care.